Welcome to the Youth School Holiday Workshops. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal and the Wangal people of the Eora Nation, and to pay my deepest respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and to any First Australians with us today. I'll hand you over now to D.A. Carter, aka Papa Fire, who's going to do a workshop for you on Mad Machines and also a lovely rendition of his performance poem, Mary Anning. Enjoy!
G'day good people, welcome to the Mad Machines workshop. My name is D.A. Carter. You can find my music under the name Papa Fire, which is weird, but that's fine. We're all about weird machines today. I've got a whole stack of machines here, and what I'm going to do is take you through three sections of this workshop. The first one's going to be about signal chain and sampling, and then the second one is going to be about sequencing and looping, and then the third one is going to be about the mentality that you might have around gear, around collecting machines, and what it means for music. Okay, so what I'm going to do is kick off with just a little jam, and then we'll kick off the workshop. So here we go. Yeah, 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 yeah. All right, so that was just a little demonstration of what you can do when you have a bunch of machines. So welcome to the first section of this workshop, which I'm going to call signal chain and sampling. Okay. So firstly, what is signal chain? Quite simply, it's the chain of signals that leads you from one source of noise all the way through to where your noise is coming out, right? That's the simplest way to understand it. So it's about inputs and outputs. So we've got, in this setup, I've drawn a little diagram which will show, we'll take a little picture and show that clearly. But basically, we've got the start of the signal chain here, starts here with this noisemaker in the iPad. It comes through this machine, which is a pocket operator, KO. So that signal is coming through there, and then it's coming through into this machine, a DL4, a line 6 DL4, and it's ending up here at a RC30 loop station, and then it's coming out into my PA. So basically, one thing to understand about signal chain is the idea that signal flows through a system. It starts with the thing that's making the sound. Also, a microphone is in here that's coming through the DL4. But it's going to come through the system and then end up with your output. Now, one thing that you need to make sure that you do with signal chain is turn on the source of your noise last. Otherwise, you're going to create what's called ground lift. If you have something like a loose wire that's not plugged into anything, it's going to create that very famous buzz sound, which I'm sure you may have heard before if you've ever toyed around with instruments. So, signal chain, that's the first thing I want you to know. It's kind of important to understand the flow of your signal and where it starts, where it ends, and how it's going to change on its way there. So the thing that I recommend that you do is draw up a diagram like this, understand your ins and outs, and get them clear in your head as you set up your gear maybe even before and after, and when you change things around, you'll be able to visualize your signal chain. So that's step one. The second thing that I want to show you is sampling. Now, there's a couple of different programs that I use. I'm just going to show you a couple. These are available on iPads as well as Androids. The first one that I use is one called Bebot. This is available on the iPad. It's a very fun little machine that you can use and program the individual notes. And you can change your presets as well. And you can change it so it actually isn't divided into notes, and then it operates more like an instrument like a theremin, which is a very cool little weird instrument that's based on. Anyway, you can look up theremins if you want to get nerdy about your music stuff. But basically, it's not divided into notes. It's just like the whole spectrum that you can play with. So that's the first one I wanted to show you, which is called Bebot. The second one, which is called MorphWiz. Now, this was produced by the keyboardist of a band called Dream Theater. I'm not a huge fan of Dream Theater. I think they're a little bit out there, but look, no disrespect to anyone who likes them. But it's a little bit like Bebot, except it's a bit more kind of, a bit more fancy looking. It kind of, has all these different backgrounds and different effects. Whoa. So you can see that one's called MorphWiz. You can have fun with that. Another one's called Sample Toy. Now this is one of my favorites because it's just so simple and weird. What you can do with Sample Toy is, so I've just sampled my voice there. So that sound that I just made, and then you can hear me talking at the end of that sample. But yeah, basically, Sample Toy is really fun because you can just create like an instant sound, sample it with the microphone of your tablet, and then play. And then sort of you can adjust what you want to hear, and then change how it sounds. I'm going to change it to a step scale. Oh, hang on. Please behave. There we go. So you can see now it kind of behaves a bit more like a keyboard. Or you can have it behave more like a spectrum. Okay. So those, if you've got a tablet, playing with apps like Bebot, like Sample Toy, or like MorphWiz is like quite a fun way to play with different sounds coming out of your device in a relatively affordable way. Because if you've already invested in a tablet, then these things aren't as expensive, for example, as like a standalone machine. Welcome to this next part of the workshop, which is about sequencing and looping. Wow. Okay, so there are different types of machines out there that will help you play with music. The one that I'm going to show you now is like a little miniature sequencer and sampler, which is called a pocket operator. It's called the pocket operator KO. There are actually different varieties of these machines. The reason why I love this one is because you can actually sample into it. And for example, I'm going to show you just right now. Oh. Okay, so you can actually put your own samples into this machine and then also program drums into it. I'm just going to show you a little example of that. And then I'm going to change the pattern. There we go. Change it to another pattern. And then you can kind of press you can press these buttons so it plays the different patterns in a particular order as well. So that's what I've just done. So we've got 3 patterns that are playing one after the other. Now, one thing I want to show you as well about this machine, which is really fun, is that you can actually, it has an effects kind of function where while you're playing the sequences, you can press this effects button and then change how the machine behaves. You can change how the beats behave. So here we go. Show you how that works. Okay, so that's probably enough jamming from me. One of the things that you need to know about samplers and machines like this is that there's a whole stack of tutorials out there, which is why I'm not really going to go into the full depth of everything you can do with this machine. There are tons of people out there on YouTube who are going to do that better. The whole purpose of this workshop is to kind of show you an overview of the stuff that's out there and get you a bit inspired and excited about exploring these kinds of sounds and machines for yourself. So that's a little bit about sequencing, and what this will allow you to do, understanding sequencing, it will allow you to kind of start to build your own beats. In the first section of the workshop, we talked about sampling, which is one way to kind of generate sounds, and then if you apply the sound making apparatuses to sequencing, you can combine them to start to create some pretty sweet noises. So the next thing I'm going to show you is looping. So I've got two different loopers here. This one I've covered in rainbow tape, so you don't be fooled by that. This is a Line 6 DL4. It's usually green, not rainbow, as I said. And what this is one kind of looper, which is a more analog kind of looper. And the way that it works is it has both a looping function and also an effects function, so you can change the number of. This is a machine which will allow you to use delay and repeat. So you can basically create these kinds of mountainous sounds, sounds like you're on like some gigantic mountain. Okay. Now the other thing you can do is use these buttons. So we've got the knobs up here, which control things like the delays, and also that you can control the volume of your looping. So I can turn the volume of the looping up and down. And now, one other cool thing that this machine does is it has a button which allows you to play a loop in half time or double time. So that's half time. And now I'm going to record another loop and play it at half time. Here we go. Okay, and now if I record over the top of that, it's going to, when I take it back to the regular tempo, it's going to be at half time. So here we go. So that allows you to make some pretty fun bass sounds because you're recording it at half the tempo, which means when you take the tempo back to normal, it will be half the pitch. So you're gonna take it an octave down. Not really half the pitch, but an octave down. Anyway, that's basically some of the main functions of the DL4. It's really fun to use with beatboxing and for vocal effects. But it actually started life as a guitar pedal. It's now becoming more popular to just use it. I've seen keyboardists use it. There's an amazing artist called Reggie Watts who uses it, and I'm a huge fan of his, which is how I got interested in the machine in the first place. Now the final machine I'm going to show you is the Boss of loop stations, which is a Boss RC30. There are actually lots of different kinds of loop stations that Boss makes. This one's more like a foundational looper, which lets you record and save loops into this machine and also transition between them in a way that you can't with the DL4. This DL4 machine has all these amazing sounds that you can produce from it, but you can't save any material on here. You need to have a separate recording machine to record anything from it. Whereas this machine, the Boss RC30, is a machine where you can lay down a loop. And then maybe lay down a little bit of bass or something. Or just a weird sound. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to save that. And I'm going to save it again. And now I've got two loops that I can transition between. And I'm going to actually delete that part. I'm going to record something else. Let's say, let's go. Here we go. Okay. Now I'm going to save that one. And now what I can do is transition between these two loops. So that's the sound I made before. And now the next one's going to play. There we go. Okay, so one of the wonderful things about these Boss loopers is that it will actually save the wave files, it will save the sounds of these loops in the machine, and then you can hook it up to a USB and get them onto a computer and then start making tracks that way. So that is a bit about sequencing and a bit about looping, the different loop machines that are out there. This is a poem called Mary Anning. With the sea by her side, she sold old bones, windswept and alone in spinster's clothes, on the cliffs exposed to beasts in the mist, monsters unknown that could not exist. She's either a witch or a lunatic, and she isn't as queer, she's dangerous. You know, a gentleman ought to put a stop to this and try to find an asylum to lock her in. For she sells seashells by the seashore. Sells each shell, yet still stays poor, and if these seashells she can sell no more, then I shall starve, she says, I'm sure. 1799, first year of her life, in a lightning strike where 3 women died. Elizabeth expired, but not the babe in her arms, yet little baby Mary somehow survived. In an age when most kids didn't reach 5. From the pox or the flu or pneumonia, polio, out of 10 lambs, only Mary and Joe ever grew old enough to grow out of their clothes. 10 summers later, and their mother was a widow when the God she didn't follow let her good father go to a hole in the ground out of town by the road, wordless at his headstone. She paused for a moment. And then little Mary Anning went back to the bones. Little Mary Anning went back to the bones, and she sells seashells by the seashore. 1833, 34 years old, wandering broken ground, Lyme Regis cliffs, cold. Fresh rocks fell down in winter millennia. Skulls in the elements, tempting the tempests, in the instant an avalanche, lightning again. She cheats another death and buries her best friend. Tears flood her eyes, a dog's trays, 4 legs. But she's back on the bluff, 8 days on the mend. Picks up a hammer, smile grim to the end. Mary's laughing a riddle in the dragon's den, and she sells seashells by the seashore. But she's so utterly unladylike, and of salt she smells. I should buy up her wares and say I found them myself, this shill and pariah, shrew and a charlatan. A gentleman need heed not the word of such a woman. So they never let her into the science societies. Didn't matter how many fines filled their libraries, they let her die a pauper, no patrons, and patronized. Her brother Joe silent alone by her graveside. You could say Mary Anning lived a fossilized life. Forgotten for centuries, frozen in time, A sea-whispered memory sheltered in rhyme. Just remember the melody and Mary's alive, and she's still selling shells with the sea by her side. Still selling shells with the sea by her side. Still selling shells with the sea by her side. Still selling shells with the sea by her side. All right, guys, I'm just going to do a little tune for you. Loose connections. Here we go. We can tame the lightning and store it in our jaws. Stolen mortal engines, sacrifice the dawn. Whisper in a satellites, true to human form. Pride before the fall of night, time will tell us all. This is the future, when did we arrive? This is the future, are we still alive? This is the future, how are we to survive? Gonna get out of here, just a day at a time, 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 a day at a time. Well, good people out there. My name's D.A. Carter, and if you want to see my music, by the way, you can head to papafire.com. That's where I release my music. That's the name under which I perform these days. So, this is just a little jam, a little tune that I wrote. That's called This Is the Future. I've put out a record which is called Burnt Perfect, and some kind of weird synthy sounds are on there. I also used to be in a band called Spectacles, which was kind of more weird and electronic and heavy, so you can check that out as well if you head to that website. But the thing that I wanted to talk to you about for this last section of the Mad Machines workshop is this idea of music gear and what's it about, and what are some of the pitfalls, what are the great things about gear, and what are the things to watch out for. So without a doubt, having some new music technology like this guy right here, the Line 6 DL4, has totally changed my ability to make music spontaneously, and I've had a tremendous amount of fun with having these tools. But one thing that I think has happened to me, and which I want to share with you, just a piece of advice, is if you're a musician or you're experimenting, if you're making things for fun, just be wary of the idea that like a particular machine or a particular piece of gear is like the key to your musical satisfaction, that you're not going to be any good until you have a particular piece of gear, or that getting a piece of gear will make you good, because there's a couple of things about that. One is that, these machines are like any instrument. Although it doesn't look like a guitar or a piano, it has its own qualities that require as much craft and dedication as any instrument, except the one thing about this stuff is that it's really hard to learn. There's like a theory and there's lots of guitar teachers out there, but if you want to kind of learn how to use technology like this, you're basically on YouTube or on your own. There's not like a very set path. So you can kind of end up wasting a lot of time going down weird rabbit holes with music technology. And take it from me, I mean, I'm a guy who doesn't have any hair and my beard is going gray, okay? So you just watch out for this stuff. It's a tremendous amount of fun, and I encourage you to, explore as much as you can, but realize there's kind of like a financial side to all of this, so don't get ahead of yourself. Don't go broke, don't make yourself broke or your parents broke. What you should do is focus on making music with what you have, and the most important instrument is you, like your body, your ideas, and what you know how to do. So if you already know how to play guitar, then getting some new bells and whistles might be great. But if you want to dedicate yourself to the instruments that you already have, it might be your voice, it might be piano, it might be guitar, it might be some other instrument like an oud or a clarinet. I don't know what you play, but that's my advice. Just make sure that you don't fall into the pitfall of like, the next thing that I get has to be this super cool gear, and otherwise you should make sure that you're always having fun and that you're not getting really frustrated trying to figure out how stuff works, and just make sure that you are enjoying the process of experimenting, practicing, and playing music, whichever pathway you choose. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this workshop on Mad Machines. I'm D.A. Carter, aka Papa Fire, if you want to find me making music, and I guess I'll catch you next time.